For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard, we will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Hey! Yeah! All right. Welcome to 30-odd minutes. It's great to be back with you. I'm Jeff Belanger. You are Oddballs, and we love that you're here with us because it would be boring otherwise. Want to say hello. Matt and Sarah are in the Oddball Pit tonight. How are you folks?
Awesome. Oh, we're awesome.
Come on, really?
Yeah.
How awesome?
Off the
that much?
That much.
That much times twice, yeah.
Anything weird happened this week?
What didn't happen weird?
Yeah, seriously.
Like, anything normal happen? That's a better question to ask.
Remember,
right?
it's us you're talking to.
That's true. It is a strange bunch, strange bunch. They are in our chat room at 30oddminutes.com. You can get involved. And not only that, tonight we're taking your call-ins, but the only way to get the number is in our chat room, or if you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you can get it there as well. And we're also, speaking of Twitter, if you follow us at 30oddminutes, look at this right there, huh? You can, your tweets might pop up during the show. If you tweet us live during the show, we're going to screen them, so be nice, and we'll get them up during the show. Ask questions, get involved, say what you think. We love hearing from you. We want to make this more interactive. That's what we're doing each week, because that's what it's all about, exploring the weird, the unusual. And speaking of both of those subjects, something made the news very recently. A photograph is for sale on eBay for $1 million. Look at the photo. Here it is. This is a guy circa 1870. No, not me. It's the photos coming up any moment. It's going to be awesome. There it is. Okay, so this photo, circa 1870, Civil War era, is for sale on eBay for $1 million. Why? Because the person selling it claims that it's actually actor Nicolas Cage. And it's proof that Nicolas Cage is a vampire, and he's been around for hundreds of years. And so here they are together, side by side. Obviously, Nicolas has had his ear fixed over the century and a half. So it's for sale. It's proof that he's a vampire. He's immortal, and the seller says, who knows, in another 100, 150 years, he may come back again as a politician or whatever. Fascinating, right? Okay, so this photo is worth $1 million. Then we come up with this photo. If that photo is worth $1 million, we're now saying that this photo is worth at least $2 million. Why? Because it's taken from the Lizzie Borden house, and it's Uncle John Morse, Lizzie Borden's uncle. Why do we say it's worth $2 million? Because, bam, check this out. Proof that actor Will Ferrell can time travel and had a love child with President Abraham Lincoln. Right there, huh?
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Don't you think? Sarah, Matt, are you convinced?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Man.
Absolutely.
When are we doing it? Yeah.
I mean, that's
how we're going to fund 30-odd.
We're finally going to get a budget for some much better beer than we've been
More
drinking.
beer?
Totally. Good stuff. So, yeah, Lizzie Borden is one of the great Southern New England haunts, which is a great segue because that's our subject for tonight. We have an awesome show in store for you. Southern New England is full of ghosts. It really, really is. And that shouldn't be too surprising because America was born in that region. There's more recorded history in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut than any other part of the country. When you've got history and tragedy colliding, it's a recipe for a haunt. Our guest tonight founded Greenville Paranormal Research back in 2006 so he could check out the haunts and odd mysteries of the region. Over time, he's collected tons of evidence of all aspects of the paranormal, and this month he published his first book, Ghost Hunting Southern New England. Please welcome live in the studio, Andrew Lake.
Yay!
Hey,
Jeff, always wanted to be on this show. And by the way, it was this monk.
Well, it was
this
monk. A monk. You rode on a monk, actually. He was your table, which is just weird. So you're a Rhode Island guy. You grew up in Southern New England.
Born and raised.
And been ghost hunting a long, long time. And why do you think some places garner a haunted reputation and others don't?
You mean here in Southern New England?
Anywhere. But here especially.
I mean, well, here I think the reason why Southern New England is so haunted is because of the history, like you said in the introduction. I mean, you have all the struggle, armed conflict, you have social and political tyranny, and so on and so forth. And I think when you have that much struggle, that much effort to exist, to stay alive, and to be who you are, individual, I think that definitely will taint an environment, either psychically, emotionally. And I also think Southern New England, I think the environment and the geology of the area, with all the running water and all the quartz and all the granite and the iron and all that. There's that theory of, the stone tape and all that. So I think that's why this area might be more haunted. Other areas, just not that much history, not that much people around.
Right.
So
you seem to need people to have ghosts, certainly.
Yeah.
Sarah, psychologist, does that hold any water with you?
That you need people in order to have ghosts?
Well, sure. And that the history and the tragedy lends itself?
Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever you have a tragedy, it imprints. It changes your entire brain structure when you have a tragedy or a trauma happen. So why wouldn't it actually have an imprint on the energy within like a space or an environment as well? Absolutely. It's all connected.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Okay, so tell us, what was your first paranormal experience? What made you think, like, whoa, there's way more to this than just stories?
The short of the long, I was 11 years old, staying in Scituate, Massachusetts, at an old Victorian home. Friends of the family owned. It was their beach house.
Right.
The great aunt died in the house, and I didn't know that. And 2 nights running, I woke up at exactly 2:35 in my room with the house absolutely, completely quiet. The floorboards you were standing on upstairs were the ceiling to the room downstairs. So if you stood at certain angles with the light on downstairs, you could actually see into the kitchen. Well, somebody was downstairs opening drawers, moving chairs, clanking silverware, and there were no footsteps with it, and then it just stopped. And that happened 2 nights in a row at the exact same time. And if any member of the family had gone downstairs to get a snack, which they weren't intended to do, they would have had to gone by my open bedroom door and down the creaky stairs and back up. And everyone denied being downstairs. And when I pushed the issue, I was told by my friend's father, Andrew, we don't talk about that. No. And then 2 years later in England, had a run-in with a ghost in an old manor house who was staying in there.
Right.
My mother and I kept quiet about it. Years later, when she was running her own travel business, sent a friend of the family over there on his honeymoon all throughout Europe. When he got home, she asked him how'd the trip go. The first thing out of his mouth was, great, except for that haunted house you stuck me in England. And he described the same exact phenomena. So right there I knew I had experienced it, other people had, it's real.
And that's funny. So it goes from becoming just a story to a personal experience, a profound personal experience. It's something you never forget. Matt Moniz, what was yours? Share with the crowd. Get it off your chest. Your first paranormal experience.
First paranormal experience?
That made you say there's more to this. It's not just a story.
Oh, God. Well, first one, Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I was about 5, 6 years old. Encountered something that came into my bedroom while I was playing with little Matchbox cars on the bed, and it just freaked the hell out of me. I hid under the covers.
Right.
So had plenty after that too.
Right. So, well, yeah. I mean, and then you start exploring it. You start looking into it. When you talk about tragedy, I mean, certainly another reason that this region is so ripe with paranormal activity. We've had a lot of war.
Oh yeah.
A lot of battles. King Philip's Civil War, Revolution.
The Revolution.
I mean, yeah, it goes on and on.
War of 1812.
And we've got artifacts of war. And one of the places in your book, the USS Salem, which is in Quincy, Massachusetts. We actually have a photo of this. Check this place out. It's a warship. And tell us a little bit about the Salem.
Oh, the Salem was quite a ship for its day. Its armament outgunned anything the Russians had. There was the flagship over in the Mediterranean. Its sister ship, the Newport News, went to Vietnam, and that ship had a horrible tragedy occur on it when a shell exploded in one of the gun turrets, and not only killed the crew in the gun turret, but men on the lower decks. At the Salem, which obviously is a museum now, they have a museum within that museum on their sister ship, the Newport News. And some people wonder if, because of the sister connection of the two ships and the artifacts taken from the Newport News, they wonder if some of the activity on the ship may be connected to the tragedy on the Newport News. But the real death and tragedy that they saw in that ship was over in Greece. There was a horrible earthquake in the 50s, and they were the first ship to go to those people's rescue. And they figured there was close to 200 deaths on the Salem, just trying to save lives. There were children born, there were lives saved, but quite a few lives lost. And to this day, they're hearing women speaking what they think might be Greek, and hearing children and all kinds of shadowy figures around the surgery area of the ship.
Very cool. Sarah, we know you've been there to the USS Salem. So has Matt.
Yeah.
What was your impression when you walked into this old ship?
There's definitely some stuff going on. I mean, the energy itself is just really heavy, and in particular, there's this room that's like a mess hall type room, and I definitely had some stuff happen, especially with your favorite flashlights technique. Sorry, but it worked. I got it to respond to me. It was definitely a male energy. It did not like that we were there, but it was tolerating us for the time being. And as long as I promised I'd leave within like 10 minutes, it was like willing to respond to me, and then it shut off when it was ready for me to go, and so I went. But you could definitely feel it. Really cool, great place.
Matt, did you have anything happen there?
Yeah, I've been to the Salem several times.
Yeah.
And I had what I would call an apparition in the distant end where the bakery is, go from the hallway into the bakery door, through the bakery door. And I had 2 other people with me that saw the same thing at the same time. And we thought it was like a member of the group until we went down and went into the room, and there's nowhere to go once you go in the room, and there was nobody there.
Right. Yeah,
So-
no, very, very cool place.
They've heard clicking and clattering of like the cookware in that room at times, and they've gone to check it out. Of course, there's nobody there, and it's a very small room. There's no place to hide.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then also, I mean, so we've got war, but we've also got amazing literary figures from history. I know one of the places you raved about was the Mark Twain house.
Oh yeah, man, what a house! That he definitely had taste. He and his wife. What a beautiful home.
Look at that man cave.
That's on the 3rd floor, and that is exactly what that is. That is the man cave. That's where all the smoking and drinking and talking about chicks took place. And not only that, in the far corner of the room where that green shaded lamp is, that's where he wrote some of his masterworks. Right there in that room. And the best story I heard about this room was the fire department got an alarm that there was something going on there, and they rushed over and they checked the fireboard on the ground floor, and it said it was a smoke detector in that room. And the firefighters went running upstairs with all their gear on and went up, and there was no smoke, no fire. But when they first walked into the room, they were overwhelmed by the smell of cigar smoke, and then it was gone just like that, typical of an olfactory haunt. The other ghost that haunts that floor and has been seen during tours is a friend of the family. He was a black gentleman who worked at the house sort of as a butler, but he was an equal with the family, and and supposedly was very close. And people have seen him still sweeping the rug, and he'll like even wave at people before he disappears. So it's a very friendly haunt, very friendly haunt. His sister Susie tragically, daughter Susie, oldest daughter, passed away in the house, and she's been seen gliding across all 3 floors of the house, and has even shushed one of the guides on the 2nd floor, which was pretty funny.
Now, does this place exploit their ghosts in any way? I mean, are they promoting it? Or
well, they are. They are now allowing for ghost tours. I think it's 1 weekend a month. The gentleman that took me around, Jacques, around the house, he said, look, it's not that I don't believe in ghosts. I've never had an experience, but he looked me right in the eye and said, but if my docents and the head of my security tell me they've seen these things, I have to believe them.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. Okay, Sarah, do we have a question in the chat room?
We do have a question. We also had a pretty cool tweet. Someone tweeted, all the cool kids are hanging out on chat on 30 Odd Minutes tonight. Come and join us. So that's cool. But the question is for Andrew. They want to know, what is the most personal experience you've had where you had legit fear and terror? If you had one like
well,
that.
I don't think I've ever had fear and terror, but I did have Willie's one night on an investigation in Foster, Rhode Island, on in a little village of little hamlet of Moosup Valley. Suddenly had a desire to find the keys to my car real quick, and did find them, and managed to calm down. And I was actually aware of the fact that I was having an anxiety attack, and I spun back around to walk towards the cemetery. And in this full moon lit night, I saw nothing. But when I played my video back the next day, I caught this strange, it almost looks like a sheet of translucent glowing fabric went right from behind me and swirled out into the cemetery. And I have not been able to explain this thing. It's definitely not an insect. And about a year later, I got an email from someone who found my website, said they grew up in Moosup Valley, and they used to see the same sort of thing themselves with their own eyes moving around the cemetery. So that kind of validated that experience. But the only time I actually was really like, I got to get out of here, I got to get out of here.
Right, right. And,
Yeah.
but I mean, but afraid, like genuine fear.
Yeah.
Now, why do you go looking for this stuff? What's the draw? I mean, that you're in creepy places, sometimes dangerous locations, and what's the reason that you're compelled to keep doing this?
I don't know. I think maybe from an early age I was irked by all the people that would shut me up and dismiss what I had to say about it. And it's like, okay, if people want to dismiss it that much, if they want to say it isn't there, well, I'm going to go there. Not to prove it to them, but just for the validation. Again, I think to go there and experience that first moment over and over again, and then to share it with my colleagues, because those are the only people that are going to believe you.
Right. Yeah.
But I do think some of the best witnesses are former skeptics. I do love a skeptic when he has that moment where he says, "Look, I never believed in this crud, but I saw that woman walk right through that wall, so now I believe."
Right. Yeah. No, that is cool. And I want to remind you guys, if you do want to call in. The number's in the chat room, and it's on our Facebook and Twitter. And we are screening you, so you people that are just calling in to prank call us, we appreciate it, and I wish we could do a show about that. It'd be kind of fun. It would be kind of cool. All right, talk to us about the Groton Inn in Groton, Massachusetts.
Oh,
Check this place out.
Yeah, the Groton Inn, 330 years of history. Kathy Caslin of Worcester Paranormal brought this place to my attention. And very, very haunted. Our founding fathers have stayed there. Presidents have stayed there. But tragically, the first weekend in August, it burned to the ground. It was about 9:30 at night. They had an electrical fire start in the attic. Fortunately, they were able to get everybody out of the place. But by the time the fire brigade got there, there was almost nothing left of it. So sadly, the Groton Inn, the jewel of the historic district of Groton, Massachusetts, is no more. But as a good friend of mine, a psychic I work with, said, I don't care if they put a CVS there. Those ghosts are still going to be there. So unfortunately, you can't visit it, but my book does document it.
Right. And you actually have a strange photo that you included.
Kathy Caslin passed this along to me. Now, look past the bar in front of the TV. Mm-hmm. It looks very much like you're looking at the back of a woman, and she's holding her arm up toward the TV. I tried to find the after shot, because Kathy didn't notice this at first. She just took a bunch of shots in the room, and that was the only shot that had that looks like a human form. And the odd thing about that is that TV and other lights and the Muzak have been turned back on in the middle of the night after they've closed the place down. The manager lives on the property and says come back, and has found lights and the TV on that she knows she has shut off. So Kathy's saying, I'm not saying this is proof of a ghost or what it is, but she did give it to me and go, I'll leave other people to decide what it is, but I find it a fascinating picture.
I mean, you can kind of see it was that
figure. It looks like she's reaching up toward the TV.
And that figure, whatever it was between the camera and the television, because it was blocking part of the.
And the reason why the picture looks like it's slightly washed out with white is because there used to be a door with a glass pane there off to the left that allowed in sunlight certain hours of the day. So it made the room very bright with sunlight, but yet the other pictures, that form is not there.
Yeah. Matt Moniz, do you think a ghost can be photographed?
I don't see any reason why it should not be able to. Energy is just energy, and the right type of camera will pick energy up. That's at least from a scientific standpoint.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. All right, now it's not just ghosts in southern New England. We've got monsters too, like any good, respectable region. Chestnut Hill Cemetery is home to one very famous headstone. We have a picture of it here. This headstone gets visited a lot.
A lot. It's even been stolen. That's what the black metal band is around the base of it. It was stolen several years ago and then returned by the guilty party. They put that metal brace at the bottom of it, but that's Mercy Brown, America's last vampire.
Right.
Her mother and sister had died before her, and she had become ill, and her brother Edwin had become ill. They sent Edwin away to maybe get some sort of medical treatment. But the people of Exeter, any fan of H.P. Lovecraft knows that people of Exeter really believed in that sort of morphic, ghost-like vampire. You had the Tillinghast case in the late 1700s, and her grave is only moments down the road too. But the people of Exeter insisted that they dig up mother and daughter, and when they did, they were completely decayed. But Mercy had died during the winter, so she was kept in the crypt.
Right.
And when they opened up the crypt, she'd been stored pretty much in a refrigerator for a couple of months. When they saw how beautifully her body was preserved, and she looked like her body had shifted position, and I believe her gums had pulled back, so it looked like she had fangs, and a little bit of what looked like blood maybe coming up out of the mouth. So that was it. That was enough for the farmers of Exeter. And Dr. Metcalf of Wickford said, okay, we'll go through the process. And they cut her heart out and burned it, took the ashes and gave it to Edwin. But, of course, Edwin passed away from tuberculosis, which was really what was killing the people.
Do you think there's any chance that Mercy Brown knew Nicolas Cage?
Could be. They could have dated. They could have.
I mean,
I heard she was a good-looking brunette.
Yeah, who knew? So, absolutely, it's always
Bear in mind that Bram Stoker also had that same story in his main manuscript for Dracula.
A friend of his sent the New York newspapers reprint of the Providence Journal story on it.
We got a phone call.
Yay!
We've got phone calls. All right,
See
very
that.
good. Someone's calling us. Oh, hold on. They're not ready yet. Still talking to our...
Well, we also have a question, if you want me to hit
Go
you
ahead,
with it.
hit the question.
All right. They want to know, Andrew, because they must sense that you're kind of an old school type of guy and you've been doing this a long time. They want to know how you feel about all of this recent electronic gadgets coming out into the paranormal community, and if you feel like that's actually hurting the credibility or if it's helping advance it and explain things.
Oh, it's not hurting anything, that's for sure. But I'm not really a techno guy. I do have an infrared camera. I do use a digital audio recorder, and I do have a couple of very good video cameras to set up in locations for surveillance. But I'm not a technical guy, but I say all the power to everybody who wants to experiment with those devices, because, you know, who knows? It might lead to something. They might get a great catch. But again, I'm not trying to prove the existence of ghosts, because you're never going to be able to prove it.
Right.
We could have the coolest machine that could catch a ghost in a bottle, and people would still go, "No, it's not a ghost. It's a trick."
Yeah. Fair enough. All right, we do have a phone call. Let's get to it.
Yay! Hello?
Hello, welcome to 30 Odd Minutes.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right, do you have a question for Andrew?
Yes, I wanted to ask him if he's been to any of the state hospitals in Massachusetts, like the Taunton, for example.
Taunton State Hospital.
I thought they weren't supposed to release those records.
For that
No,
one.
I have not. I have not been to any of the hospitals. Of course, our good friend Christopher Balzano has, and poked around in there. And Chris has told me some stories about interviews, former employees. Sounds like pretty dark, spooky places. I would be interested in going, but I've never been invited.
Yeah, no.
It's hard to get into those. That's
Yeah.
actually one of my most desired locations is Taunton State Hospital. I
Yeah.
worked right by it, and it's so enticing. It's amazing looking. I would love to go there.
These old Kirkbride hospitals, and they're all over the country,
Yeah.
but Massachusetts especially, Rhode Island too. Their stories are so similar. You know, you've got in the mid to late 1800s, this guy Kirkbride figured, hey, let's take mentally disabled people and treat them like humans. You know, put them in a big sprawling campus, help make them grow their own food, be self-sufficient, and they noticed people started getting better. Over time, you've got it just degrades. You had the the Great Depression. You had people that were committing themselves so they could get 3 square meals a day and shelter. And then you had just such horrible overcrowding that the facility couldn't possibly work. You know, when you've tripled the number that were supposed to be in there, you just can't take care of it.
They also didn't have screening of staff like they do nowadays. It wasn't like
Right.
they could do a background check on somebody, and you did have some horrible monsters working in those places, taking advantage of the situations.
Yep, no, and then the deinstitutionalization, the buildings now sit empty, most of them, and they're decaying, and they've got a story to tell. You know, like to me, that's the most interesting part of a haunt, is that, you say like, well, if these walls could talk, well, maybe they can.
Well, we have the Ladd Center in Rhode Island, and
Right.
that has a reputation, but it also has an even worse reputation. As we say, don't fear the dead, fear the living.
Right.
A group of ghost hunters broke into that place to go, and they got jumped and had all their equipment robbed at knife point. The state police in Rhode Island actually had to make an announcement, stop ghost hunting in there. We've got some dangerous characters hanging out there, and they're going to steal your equipment and maybe do worse.
Do you think they're like a West Side Story, like a rival ghost hunting gang? They're like, "Ooh, we got a thermal camera now, like, hey man, this is our turf.
Right.
Yeah, all right. Cool. Speaking of the dead, there's a great cemetery in Connecticut, Union Cemetery.
Oh, yeah.
This is one I know well because I grew up 2 towns over when I was a kid in Connecticut. And tell us about Union Cemetery. We have a photo here, too.
Yeah, well, Union Cemetery, actually, Jeff, I learned about this, I think, probably through you. This photograph, the day I took this for the book, it was my first trip out there. And apparently, there is a woman in white who wanders out of this cemetery and crosses the road right out in front, and has caused people to either jam on their brakes, swerve off the road. And I believe one of the best stories came from a firefighter, either on his way to work or home from work, and he thought he struck her. And there was supposedly some slight damage in the front of his car, but yet no sign of this person.
Let me Union Cemetery, this is the place, growing up near there, as a kid, you hear about the White Lady of Easton. Union Cemetery is in Easton, Connecticut. So the White Lady of Easton, she's been seen all up and down that road. And I saw the most amazing video I've ever seen. It was taken by Ed and Lorraine Warren. And Ed Warren basically parked his car in this little pull-off. That's probably right about where he took that photo. And he just rolled his camera all night. And in the video, I mean, it's tough to describe a video, but it's dark. You see this mass come up and take a human form that looks feminine. It starts moving toward the camera between the headstones, and then kind of dissipates down into the ground. We're talking 4, 5, 6 seconds of something happening, which is a long, long time.
Yeah,
you know, it's not
really.
like 1 second. It's like, and then it's gone. And I remember looking at that video that Ed Warren showed me, and I just went, you know what? I mean, unless Spielberg helped you with this, like
what were we talking? 1990, 91 when he took that video.
it was late 80s, early 90s.
And you didn't have video trickery, so even if someone wanted to accuse Ed Warren of, the technology wasn't there to do it. And I just recently met a guy who got to know the Warrens before Ed passed, and he got to see that video, and he backs you up on it.
Yeah,
he says it's jaw dropping.
It's real. I've never seen a video equal to it where you look and you went, okay, I have no idea what we're looking at right here. If that's not a ghost, I mean, there's no way passing headlights, none of that stuff. And believe me, Ed Warren, God rest his soul and God bless him, showed me other videos where it panned through sunlight, and I'm like, I don't know.
It could be a sun flare or something.
Could be this, could be that. But that one, I just went, you know what, I got nothing.
It goes, Ed's buried in Stepney, which is not far away.
Right.
And that supposedly has a ghost of a woman who was accused of being a witch, Hannah Karenna. I think I'm getting her name,
Hannah something, yeah. God, isn't it? I mean, looking into this stuff, it kind of makes you a kid again, because they were these spooky, eerie stories. Now, as grown-ups, we get to go and try to validate them or find out where they started and get our hands into them again. It's awesome. I love that part of it. Sarah, chat room.
Yes.
What's going on?
Actually, we have another one, a follow-up question. They wanted to know, Andrew, about the USS Salem. They heard a rumor that it's actually the shipyard that's haunted, not the ship itself. What do you think about that? Have you heard anything like that?
Well, my visit there, I heard nothing about the shipyard, but I imagine when you're doing tough work like that, working with steel, I imagine there probably could have been a lot of deaths within the shipyard, but the docent of the Salem we were talking to, he basically was just told me the ghost stories of the ship. But that's rather fascinating.
Yeah,
it makes you wonder with all the history. I mean, you look at Davisville in Rhode Island, a big Navy base down in Davisville. 600 training deaths on that base.
Oh my God!
And its history. And they opened up an air museum several years ago. They got a nice little air museum in there. And I talked to the old timers that work in that museum, and they hear guys walking around in there and voices, and they catch glimpses of guys sitting in the cockpit. And a lot of these guys were non-believers. They didn't ghost nothing. I'm a pilot. I'm a retired military man. And they sat down and talked to me and said, no, these guys are here because of that tragedy.
Amazing, amazing. All right, before we get up to the end of the show, let's head to Western Massachusetts to the Houghton Mansion.
Yeah.
This is a place near and dear to our hearts. We did a live episode. There it is, the Houghton Mansion in North Adams. We all know it. We were all there. We did a live-ish from Houghton Mansion.
Yeah.
And again, this place comes up. It comes up enough that we did an episode there. It made it to your book, multiple books. It's on TV shows. Why do we keep talking about this place?
Oh, because I think it is absolutely legitimately haunted and very active. I mean, you talk to the Masons there, and a lot of them were like, a lot of them were like, I came to the lodge and I heard the stories, and you just and then when they started having experiences, I mean, as we know, it turned them into such believers. They started their own ghost hunting group. I mean, Berkshire Paranormal. But no, I think the tragedy of the Houghton Mansion, A.C. Houghton, and losing his daughter, and was it his
Butler?
Niece? The butler committed suicide once he got home, but in the accident lost, I believe it was a niece.
Yeah, family friend.
The three men survived, and the man driving, Witters, shot himself in the barn the next day. They believe that he actually had a crush on the daughter, and it just broke his heart.
Yep.
And they say that Houghton died of a broken heart. I mean, it may have been internal injuries, but some people say the loss of his daughter, his right-hand man, he just gave up. And some of the EVPs they've caught in there, they said, are any of AC's children here? And I think the answer was, there's one of them here.
Yeah. Amazing place, amazing stuff. Southern New England, full of haunts. Matt, what do you give it out of 10 stars? Andrew Blake's new book.
I give it an 11.
Oh,
thanks,
11.
Matt.
Let's go to 11. Sarah.
Quick.
She used it to 13. Stop a coffee table.
Yeah, it's
you guys are the best. All right, folks, that's it. Andrew Lake for all of us oddballs. Thank you so much. Until next time, stay odd.
Woo!